People all over the world are suffering from various mental ailments during this impact. As a remedy to these ailments, and also for boosting up our mental health and thus ensuring our overall health, aquarium keeping plays a major role. It is one of the best adoring hobbies in the world to improve mental health and as a business to improve our financial status. Planet aquariums and aquascaping are the latest trends in aquarium keeping to recreate the vivid nature in a glass container to enjoy its ultimate aesthetic value. Sure, we can beat the COVID-19 by resorting to the potential of a planted aquarium in our homes or workplace to have a bit of scenic ambience and pleasing, joyful nature. Today, we have Deepak Pazhayamadom, research officer in Pearling Company, Australia, as resource person to deliver the invited talk. His company is renowned for the production of rarest and most valuable Australian South Sea pearls, and they supply strands, loose pearls, and mother of pearl shell to the world's leading jewelry and retailers and wholesalers. Among the vast experience in various fields of science, from fisheries to statistics and software development, Deepak has ample experience in planted aquariums. He has a true passion for planted aquariums and gardening that makes him work. In the onset, I would like to welcome you all to the inaugural session of this webinar. We begin the inaugural session with a silent prayer and Guru Smarana. Okay. I invite MJ Manoj, Head of the Department, Physical Education, and member Health Club to deliver the welcome address. Manoj sir, please.
A very good morning to all of you. Let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. MJ Manoj, Head of the Department of Physical Education, SN College, Kollam. So some might wonder why a physical education teacher is here welcoming the program. I have two reasons. One is, the first one is I started my degree life as a BSc Zoology student at University College Trivandrum, and for some personal reasons, I left this course and joined physical education. So that is the first one. Second one is I live very close to the Kerala University Aquarium, which was then situated at Shangumugam, and my uncle was doing his PhD there in the aquarium on aquatic biology, and so I got the opportunity as a child and as when I was in my school days to visit this aquarium, and I used to spend nearly a whole day looking at the life in water, and that was a passion. It really fascinated me, and so I got the opportunity when I was doing my schooling days to do scuba diving because he was collecting his data. So marine life, the life in water was something and is still something which fascinates me. So that's one reason. That's the second reason why I'm here to do this welcome address, and my passion still continues. And when Nishit teacher called me and asked me if I can do this program to welcome the invitees, I straight away agreed because I still has got a passion for exploring and knowing the sea life, and so as a traveler, I used to travel a lot, and as a traveler, I got the opportunity to visit the, I think our guest might be knowing the Blue Reef Aquarium at Portsmouth in London. So that was a wonderful experience for me. Then I gone scuba diving in Pankor Islands, Malaysia. So I visited some aquariums in Singapore and in Indonesia. So I had a lot of opportunity and still in the quest of, going around visiting places of interest, basically the sea life, I was also a real fan of Jacques Rousseau and the French explorer and during my child days, and so that's the reason why I'm here welcoming you all. So let me come to the point now. My duty here is to welcome the invitees and all of you. Let me, on behalf of the Health Club and the IQSC team of SN College Kollam, invite Dr. Deepak Pazhayamadom, who is, as Hari sir has mentioned, he's a research officer at Paspellery Pearling Company in Australia. I'm sure he's an expert in this field because I heard a lot about him. He's flown from Kerala and landed in Australia. So is going to bring to light a lot of information about this area. So let me welcome you, sir, to this program, to this webinar.
Thank you, Manoj,
Secondly, thank you. Secondly, let me invite our beloved Principal Dr. Sunil Kumar. By rights, he is a scholar, he is a wonderful orator, he is a writer, and above all, he is a wonderful human being. Let me invite you, sir, to this program. Let me also invite my colleague and friend, Dr. S.V. Manoj, who is IQSC coordinator of the college. Is doing a wonderful job, and we are very glad that we are having him here today as well. And let me also take this opportunity to introduce, to welcome Dr. B. Hari and Dr. S. Nisha, and also all those invited and guests who are here, who has logged in to this program. Let me also welcome my students who are here to get an idea about the planted aquariums. And before I wind up, let me also wish you all a wonderful and happy Onam ahead. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Manoj, sir. IQSC and Health Club is always thankful to Dr. M.J. Manoj, sir, for his kind support and advice that we render during the conduct of the webinar series. Thank you, Manoj, sir. Now I cordially invite our respected principal, Dr. R. Sunil Kumar, sir, to formally inaugurate the webinar. Sunil Kumar, sir.
Okay. Dear webinar participants, പ്രിയമുള്ളവരെ, എത്ര കൈപ്പേറിയ കാലമാണെങ്കിലും അതിനെയെല്ലാം മറച്ച് ഓണം എന്ന രണ്ടക്ഷരത്തിൻ്റെ മധുരം മലയാളിയുടെ ഹൃദയത്തിൽ അലിഞ്ഞു ചേരുന്ന സന്ദർഭത്തിലാണ് കൊല്ലം ശ്രീനാരായണ കോളേജിലെ ഹെൽത്ത് ക്ലബും IQSC ടീമും സംയുക്തമായി സംഘടിപ്പിക്കുന്ന ഈ വെബിനാർ നടക്കുന്നത്. കോവിഡ് കാലത്ത് പലതരത്തിലുള്ള പല വിഷയങ്ങളെ അധികരിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള വെബിനാറുകളാണ് നമ്മൾ നടത്തിയിട്ടുള്ളത്. ഒരുപക്ഷെ മറ്റ് കലാലയങ്ങളിലൊന്നും കാണാത്ത തരത്തിൽ മെന്റൽ ഹെൽത്തിന് പ്രാധാന്യം കൊടുത്തുകൊണ്ട് മാനസികാരോഗ്യത്തിന്റെ വിശദാംശങ്ങളിലേക്ക് കടന്നു ചെല്ലുന്ന വെബിനാറുകളാണ് ഈ IQSCയും ജിഷ ടീച്ചറുടെ നേതൃത്വത്തിലുള്ള ഹെൽത്ത് ക്ലബും നടത്തിയിട്ടുള്ളത്. ഏറ്റവും ശുഭോദർക്കമായിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യമാണ്. പ്ലാന്റഡ് അക്വേറിയം ബേസിക് ടെക്നോളജി ആൻഡ് ട്രബിൾ ഷൂട്ടിംഗ് എന്നുള്ള ഈ വെബിനാർ ഒരു ഇക്കോസെൻട്രിക് ആയിട്ടുള്ള പാരിസ്ഥിതിക കേന്ദ്രിതമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു പ്രസ്ഥാനത്തെ പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തുന്ന ഒരു വെബിനാറാണ് എന്ന് ഞാൻ മനസ്സിലാക്കുകയാണ്. അക്വേറിയത്തിന്റെ കാര്യം പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ കൊല്ലം ബീച്ചിൽ അക്വേറിയം പണിഞ്ഞിട്ടിട്ട് വർഷങ്ങളായി അത് വെറുതെ കിടക്കുകയാണ്. ഇതുവരെയും അത് പ്രവർത്തനം പോലും തുടങ്ങിയില്ല. ഇപ്പൊ കൊല്ലത്ത് നമുക്ക് അങ്ങനെ ഒരു അക്വേറിയം കാണാൻ കഴിയില്ല എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. ഇപ്പൊ മനോജ് സാറിന്റെ പ്രസംഗത്തിലൊക്കെ ലോകത്തെ പ്രശസ്തമായിട്ടുള്ള അക്വേറിയത്തിന്റെ സൂചനകൾ നൽകി കഴിഞ്ഞു അദ്ദേഹം. അപ്പൊ നമ്മുടെ കുട്ടികൾ ഒരു സ്റ്റാർട്ടപ്പായിട്ട് തന്നെ ഈ പ്ലാന്റഡ് അക്വേറിയം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഈ അക്വേറിയം ഹോബിയിലേക്ക് പോവുകയും അത് വിനോദത്തിനും മാത്രമല്ല മാനസികാരോഗ്യത്തിനും മാത്രമല്ല ഒരു വ്യാവസായികമായ രീതിയിൽ ഒരു എന്റർപ്രണർഷിപ്പ് പോലെ ഒരു സ്റ്റാർട്ടപ്പായി തുടങ്ങാൻ കഴിയുമെങ്കിൽ അത് നമ്മുടെ കുട്ടികൾക്ക് ഏറ്റവും പ്രയോജനകരമായിരിക്കും. ഈ പ്രയോജനകരമായ ഈ വെബിനാർ സംഘടിപ്പിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള എല്ലാ സഹപ്രവർത്തക സുഹൃത്തുക്കൾക്കും ഞാൻ നന്ദി അറിയിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഈ വെബിനാറിന് ഏറ്റവും അനുയോജ്യരായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരാൾ തന്നെയാണ് ഇന്ന് നമുക്ക് കിട്ടിയിട്ടുള്ളത്. ഡോക്ടർ ദീപക് ജോർജ് പഴയമഠത്തെ നിങ്ങളുടെ എവരുടെയും അനുവാദത്തോടെ ഞാൻ ഈ വെബിനാറിലേക്ക് ക്ഷണിക്കുകയും ഔപചാരികമായി ഈ വെബിനാർ ഉദ്ഘാടനം ചെയ്തതായി പ്രഖ്യാപിക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നു. എല്ലാവർക്കും കൊല്ലം ശ്രീനാരായണ കോളേജിന്റെ ഓണാശംസകൾ നേരുന്നു. താങ്ക് യു.
Thank you, sir. Our principal, Dr. R. Sunil Kumar, sir, is the motivational spirit behind this webinar series. Under his leadership, our college achieved many heights in academic and extracurricular activities at state level and national level. He is always keen in mentoring us to conduct all the activities of IQSC and the Health Club. On behalf of IQSC and Health Club, I would like to propose heartfelt thanks to you, sir, for inaugurating this webinar on planted aquariums. Now I invite Dr. S.P. Manoj, our captain of IQSC, to felicitate this august occasion. Manoj, sir.
Okay, sir.
Respected, respected Principal, Dr. Sunil Kumar sir, Dr. M.J. Manoj, Dr. Hari, Dr. Jisha, and coordinators of the Health Club and IQC team, and all dear participants. I think we are all eagerly waiting to hear Dr. Deepak George. And so without making much delay, I hope we can start the program. And on behalf of IQC, I wish all success for this program. And over to Hari. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Manoj, sir, for a kind and inspiring words you offered us presentation. Now I invite Dr. S. Jisha, Assistant Professor, Department of Zoology, the convener of Health Club, SN College Kollam, to introduce our resource person.
Thank you, Harry. Our most respected Principal Dr. R. Sunil Kumar sir, SV Manoj sir, MG Manoj sir, Harry sir, and dear all. I am so glad to introduce my friend Dr. Deepak George Pazhayamadom. Currently, he is working as a research officer at Paspale Pearling Company, Australia. Paspale is renowned for the rarest and most valuable Australian South Sea pearls. And coming back to Deepak, he took a BFSc Fisheries Science from Kerala Agriculture University and MFSc Fisheries Resource Management from Central Institute of Fisheries Education. And he was awarded PhD in Fisheries from University College Cork, Ireland. His research work was on application of signal detection methods to fisheries management system. He also obtained certificate in information systems from Deakin University, Australia. During a period of 3 years, he was a recreational fisheries survey interviewer at NT Fisheries Australia. Previously in Paspale Pearling Company, he also served as aquaculture technician and pearling information officer. And from 2016 onwards, he is in the current position, research officer. He is also a freelance statistician and R instructor. He has lots of soft skill experiences in website and database development. He also have expertise in device programming and book editing through latex coding. Deepak has volunteering experiences at Darwin Aquaculture Center and Northern Territory Government Australia, SIFI, College of Fisheries, and Renzi Hatchery in India. He was a resource leader for Meenachil Fish Count Kumaragam, which was the first fish count program in India. He is an ongoing webinar host named Aquatic and Fishery Science Talks, bi-weekly webinar series linking research and primary industry. He has got training in First Aid St. John Ambulance, Darwin, Australia, Advanced Open Water, Scuba, Paddy, Goa, Remote Sensing and Environmental Modeling using satellite images at Charles Darwin University, Australia. He also obtained various skills like mapping skills from University College Cork, Ireland, Advanced Fish Stock Assessment from Copenhagen, Denmark, and Personal Sea Survival Techniques from National Maritime College of Ireland. Deepak was a trainer for date applications, EndNote and LaTeX, coding skill development, fisheries data analysis, and data analysis using R. He was awarded PhD studentship under the Sea Change Strategy, Marine Institute, Ireland, and Junior Research Fellowship by ICAR. He was a visiting fellow at Department of Mathematical Sciences, University of Essex, UK. His hobbies include aquaponics, planted aquarium, gardening, and photography. Deepak has a number of oral presentations and paper presentations, and he has 16 paper publications in his credit, and he is also a scientific reviewer. With great pleasure, I wholeheartedly welcome Deepak to deliver his talk organized as part of Beat the Blue program of SN College Kollam. Thank you all.
Okay, over to you, Deepak, please.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sunil Kumar sir, MJ Manoj sir, SV Manoj sir, Hari sir, and teacher. I'm very glad to hear Manoj sir have, despite being currently in physical education, still keep the passion of keeping aquariums or, on all these living organisms, marine biology, everything. I hope you have an aquarium at home. Anyway, so today, as you all know, I'm going to talk about planet aquariums. And if you have heard from Jisha teacher, all my background doesn't reflect what I'm going to talk about. So that means It's not my specialization, but it's a specialization developed through passion. So everything I talk about planted aquarium today is the knowledge developed from doing just one aquarium, which is sitting behind me. You can see it. And so let me start this presentation. Before that, I just want to know how many of you actually keep an aquarium, or if you can you put just a Y in a chat box, and I know how many people are there. All right. There are so many people. So there's another question for you. Yeah, you can just stop saying yes. Yeah. So the second question is, how many of you have a planted aquarium? Just say, yeah, yes, fully yes. All right. So that's it. So, when I asked about aquarium, there were so many people, when I asked for planted aquarium, there's few. So I think maybe 10 or 12. But again, I'm not sure whether they mean it what's their understanding when I say planted aquarium. So let me go to the presentation. When at the end of the presentation, probably you can give me a feedback and probably say, did you mean actually this one, or it was just plants in an aquarium? All right. So if you can see my screen, I hope everyone can see my screen. There are I'm just showing 4 different types of planted aquarium here. So again, there are different types of aquarium, and planted aquarium is just one type of the many that are in the industry. And this is a very big topic, and it's we cannot finish this in 1 hour. But what I'm going to do is skim through all the relevant topics and just giving you a base, so because essentially you have to learn it, or most people go to Google search engine and learn about this. So my role here will be to help you to become a good search warrior in Google. So when you go to Google, you know what you want to search. So that makes life so much easier. And just before I start, this aquarium behind me, it took me 2 years to start that aquarium, because 1 year I spent planning on it, and another 1 year I spent getting the right tools that I can fit in the aquarium. So it's depending on how much you want to reach, it can be an expensive affair, but it can be also done in a very simple way, like a cheap way. It all depends on how much you want to achieve, and what's your ability to your budget or things like that. So, but by all means, you can use local equipments, and normal things lying around the house, and do a beautiful planted aquarium. So there are 4 types here, depending on the aquascaping styles. So the one Dutch style aquarium is essentially keeping only one type of plant in one particular area. So you can see it's very colorful, but you won't see one species in another part of the tank. So that's the Dutch style aquarium. The Iguami style aquariums are inspired from the Japanese culture. So this one, essentially, you will see only one species of plant, which is a low, like a carpet spreading plant, and then different styles of stone layouts. So that's the Iguami style aquarium. Jungle style is basically you don't plan it; it just grow by itself. It just outgrow the aquarium, and that is jungle. And the fourth type here, a very the nature aquariums are the recent development, I would say, or probably more very. There are many people getting passionate about it. So how it is different from other aquariums is that you actually recreate a nature. So as you can see, if I don't tell you this is an aquarium, you might think this is a real jungle or something. So what you see in the nature, you recreate in an aquarium. So that's why you call it a nature aquarium. Now this man, Takashi Amano, I'm not sure how many of you have heard of him, but he's the person who have propelled the nature aquarium business in the industry. He is actually no more. I think he died in 2013, I think. So he is considered as the father of modern aquascaping. He introduced many ways of doing the aquascaping to the world, and also he have a couple of books which are very popular in this industry now, and he have also developed his own um, brand of nature aquarium products, and they are called ADA. Or known as Aqua Design Amano. So all these products from ADA are very expensive, but it does a great job. Now in this slide, you can see there are two aquariums on the left and the right. The left one is an aquarium aquascaped by James Findlay, and he runs a company called The Green Machine. The theme used for this aquarium, he named it Crimson Sky, probably because of the red plants going behind the stones, as you can see. And so I used to see these pictures before when I was a graduate student, and I have gone to like many training programs on ornamental aquariums, and every time I see a picture like this, I think it's photoshopped, it's not real. That perspective have everything changed when one of my friend posted a planted aquarium. It's a like nano tank, like very small one, in his bedroom. When he was doing his studies in Australia, so he posted this picture in Facebook, and I was like, wow, how can you do that? And that is how I started looking what really are these business about. And then I found so many videos, people doing like unbelievable nature aquariums. It's really unbelievable how they look, and it's hard to believe they are a real thing in the world. So the picture here in the left is the tank which I have tried to recreate, which is on the right side. That's my aquarium. So I try to recreate the left one, but surely it doesn't look same. By design, it looks same. It's a long aquarium. It has a light on the top, which is not clear in the picture. But the dimensions of the aquarium tank is same. But when it comes to aquascaping, you can see it's not identical. So, so I simply explain why it is, because out of my passion, when I started with the same plants used by James Findlay, but over time, I started getting interested to grow more plants, and then I changed my style of aquascaping. I tried to the tank designed by James Findlay. You can see some wood-like structure. I thought it was a wood, but it's not a wood. It's like a fossil stones. And I tried to find these exact type of stones, and I couldn't find. And finally, I decided, okay, I will put a wood inside, which looks like it. And it created a lot of problems for me, which I will explain later. So I took that wood out, and then I decided, okay, I will make my own style. And as you can see here, again, it's a kind of Dutch style aquarium, because you can see the red plants in the middle. There's another type of plant on the left, another one on the right. So, and you can see the species list. To my memory, there was around 13 species in this tank, which I could recollect only 12, which is in here. And most of these, what James Findlay used, are there in my tank as well. So that's how the passion grew, and on the process I learned many things, and I hope it happens for you as well. So the whole structure of the talk will be about three parts. One is about the systems, what equipments you need for doing these types of aquariums. Second, about what is the step-by-step procedure of doing the aquascaping. And third is about the management, how you keep it beautiful, how you keep it run the aquarium without any issues. I will be focusing more on 1 and 2. Maybe we won't have much time for doing the third, but I will quickly go through it. Jisha teacher, please interrupt me when it's around 50 minutes, so I know how long it's going to be taking.
Sure.
Yeah. So part 1 about systems. We start with simple biology. So I'm sure most of you know what this is. A plant. What are the factors needed for the plant growth? So plants grow by photosynthesis, and it needs sunlight. It needs carbon dioxide, and in the process they release oxygen. So they need nutrients and water. Okay, and the water on the right side is when it's nighttime. So basically, there's no light, so you cannot do photosynthesis, but it simply do respiration. So just as like humans consume oxygen and release carbon dioxide. So what is different between day and night? The main thing is, yes, day you need light and carbon dioxide, but in night you don't need carbon dioxide. You don't need light. So these are the basics which you need to know when you grow a planted aquarium. So you must think, oh, I have an aquarium and I keep my lights on in the night. Yes, I want to enjoy my aquarium. Yeah, I understand that spirit, but when you run a planted aquarium, you have to design. You have to keep everything constant. Just like like the sun rises, sunset, there are equal number of light hours every day. So all these things should run in a very stable manner. You cannot change the routine; it will affect the plants. This slide just giving a snapshot of all the requirements for a planted tank, and in the middle you can see there's a planted tank. You can see it's a beautiful nature aquarium. You can see the light in the top, which are probably too many fluorescent lights there. And under the desk, there's a big chamber with holding so many equipments, keeping the aquarium running, which is most times it will be hidden because there's a door and it's not for display. But that's the case for even the salted aquarium or reef aquariums. It will be just more bigger than this. So on the left side, I have given the requirements for a basic aquarium. And I'm sure most of you know you need a tank, you need some gravel for the bottom, you need water, you need fish, you need a filter, and some air. So that's the understanding of an aquarium for most people in the world. But when you come to planted aquarium, you need more, just not that much. You need still more things. You need a good light which simulates sunlight so the plants can grow. So the spectrum of the light is important. Then you need a carbon dioxide injection. So it's, most aquariums, normal aquariums, we put air pump, you bubble air. But for planted aquariums, you don't bubble air, you bubble carbon dioxide, because the carbon dioxide available in the water is not enough for the plant growth. So you have to give more bubbling of carbon dioxide. And again, you need nutrients. So you have to fertilize it just like you grow your vegetables. You need fertilizers. You have to keep fertilizing for maintaining the plant growth. And obviously, you need plants. There are different types of plants which is in my talk, which it comes later, and I will explain what type of plants are available. And most importantly, to make it look like in nature, you need the right aquascaping tools, and you need a skill of art skill or some imagination how it's going to look like. And so it is a big thing that you have to really plan about it, which again I will show that in my coming slides. And again, the other ones are optional, 16, 17, and 18. 18 is the spare parts. So, there are few equipments here which can break down anytime and you need a spare immediately available, or, all your efforts might crash in 1 or 2 days. You need a timer to run the lights and carbon dioxide, because you don't need light and carbon dioxide all the time. Remember, we need them only in the daytime or whenever the lights is on. And there is a UV filter, which is again something expensive. It's the optional. You can run a good aquarium without UV, but having a UV, it makes it better. Now, this slide is very important for probably most people, even people who knows the basic aquarium skills. I know the aquarium, we keep fish, and in this talk, I'm talking about keeping plants, but that is not the aquarium. What you really need to grow is the bacteria, not the plants, not the fish. You keep your bacteria happy, and everything else will be happy. So, and the picture here, it shows the nitrogen cycle. And these are basics we learn in a zoology class, and I'm sure everyone knows. So what's the nitrogen cycle? The fish eat food. There will be some leftover food, and there will be fecus from the fish. Both will create ammonia. Ammonia is toxic to fish. So you need some bacteria to convert it to less toxic component. So there comes the nitrosomas. They will convert the ammonium to nitrite, and then you have the nitrospira, which converts the nitrites to nitrates. Now, ammonia is toxic. Nitrite is also toxic. Nitrate is also toxic. So basically everything is toxic, but nitrates are very less toxic. So you cannot have even a tiny bit of ammonia. You cannot have a tiny bit of nitrite, but you can have to a limit. You can keep nitrates. Now, so when I said it's toxic to the fish, not to the plants. To the plants, ammonia is a fertilizer. Nitrite won't do much to the plants, but nitrates is again a fertilizer. So plants can utilize all these things. And this cycle should keep running in your tank, and as long as it is in full-fledged, you can safely keep a fish inside the aquarium. So, do you know why fish dies when you start a new aquarium? And you go to the aquarium shop, buy a tank, put some gravel in it, water, a fish, and next day fish dies because there's no bacteria to convert ammonia to nitrates. So the first step in any aquarium is to make sure this cycle happens. And there should be zero ammonia, zero nitrate, a little bit of nitrates, and it's good to go. Now, the first part, you need a tank, aquarium tank. Now, I'm just talking all these equipments based on what is needed for a planted aquarium. In aquarium tank types, you get a lot of aquariums, and I'm sure you think, oh, what's the big deal about it? It's not really a big deal, but it's just giving some information. You can get tanks with the braces on it. It's just giving additional support. But for most planted aquariums, it looks nice having no brace support with it and keeping it open on the top. So they're called brimless aquarium. So that's one side of it. Most planted aquarium people paint black paint on the back panel. It's just because the plants have a nice green color and they give a good contrast in a black background. And it's all optional. If you choose, you don't want to do, you don't have to do it. Now there are different types of glass. Okay, I'm showing an example here. The highest clarity glass is the low iron glass. If you see the mid-grade or low iron glass, if you look through the side, you see a slight bluish color. It just shows that it's not don't have a full clarity. So most planted aquarium hobbyists go for a low iron glass. It is also stronger than the mid-grade iron. It can hold the aquarium even if it is without a brace support. It can hold properly. And there is acrylic tanks, which is not a glass, more like a plastic thing. Acrylic is also a good one, but it have a good chance of getting scratched. So when you use over many years, you could get scratches on the tank. Most people go for a low iron glass aquarium. This is a picture of a showroom which keeps all these planted tanks for exhibition or for the customers. You can see how they lay out it. All tanks are rimless. And it's also give the advantage. There are a few advantages that you don't have to lift the lid out so you can have a greater access. You can go take your hand inside to do maintenance. And also, the plants can outgrow the tank. You can go just above the water and it just gives another nice feel. One of the tanks here, you can see the woods are gone out of the tank. So the aquarium stand. So this is about aquarium stand. You need, it's going to be really heavy. So most people make the tank stands with the low quality material on the outside, which is still okay. What you need is a good steel-based frame which holds everything together, and you can have crossbars under the tank, so it's just to give more support, especially when you are going to put more stones. They are going to be like really heavy, so make sure you have a good material stand. Height of the tank is important. If your kids are in the house, they can just stick their hands inside. They could put their toys inside. It happens all the time with my aquarium. And then you need a lot of storage. So there'll be a few equipments. Sometimes some of them are expensive, and also many tank maintenance things that you can keep inside the cabin. And probably you need a lock as well. If you have kids, you need a lock. That's about it. Next one is the substrate. Very important thing. Probably most people don't realize. For normal aquarium, you use gravel, but plants need nutrients. Gravel is inert. They have nothing in it. So you need a nutrient-rich substrate for the plants, so the roots can go in and absorb the nutrients. So what are the major nutrients? They are, just like the vegetables, the macronutrients are NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And there are many trace metals, minerals that is needed for the aquarium. So an ideal substrate should provide all these nutrients. But again, it should be like a slow release nature. Not that all the nutrients come in a flash and then it's gone, then there's nothing, it's zero. So it should slowly release the nutrients so it can keep the plants growing all the time. The one here, Amazonia, is a product of ADA. You remember the man, Takashi Yamano, his brand. So that's a very popular planted aquarium substrate. It's a mystery from where they get this gravel, but it does a really good job. My tank in behind used this substrate, but it won't last long. I think you can run for 2 years and then you have to replace the entire thing. So yeah, and there's another brand which is popular is Fluoride. Fluoride is a product of Chem. You can see written in the just the plant there. You can see Chem. It's a big brand in planted aquarium. Fluoride is also one of the popular substrate used by many people. And then there is Eco Complete. I think it's the Carib Sea. That's the brand company. Eco Complete. So I know these are all expensive substrates, probably not something for if you are going to do cheap things. But just for your information, I put it there so you know what's going in the world. And there is another brand, Aquasphere. So this is based in Calcutta, and they are providing many products that are suitable for planted aquarium, probably a cheaper option than going for the big brands. So, and they're, if you go, they have a Facebook page, you can see how they are doing things. They still looks very beautiful tanks. So their substrate is still good, I guess. So then they also sell many other products. But if you don't want to spend too much money on it, you can just go very local and cheap. So what you need to know is, people sometimes use sand, just sand, when sand is very inert. So sand, but people use it because plants need to hold on something, so the roots can hold on something. So sand is sometimes used as basically a rooting substrate, not really adding any nutrients to them. So in that case, people add fertilizer to the water so the plants can absorb nutrients from the water. But again, if you use sand, it won't grow all types of species. There is maybe some easy growing plants will grow, but not the difficult ones. And there's gravel. Gravel most people use in normal aquariums. It's not a good one for planted aquarium. And also sometimes you should be careful. If there are limestones in the gravel, you can change the pH of your tank. So always you have to test, just before you actually use for the aquarium. So just simply submerge it in water, check the pH, and if it is going down or going up, it's not good for your aquarium. Anyway, so the most probably the easiest thing to do is, if you don't want to spend too much money, just go for the organic soil. The last option here, which I highlighted, organic soil, some clay, and just put that in the bottom, and on the top of it, put a sand, just 1 or 2 inch of sand. So that means the organic soil have all the nutrients. Clay, you don't need too much clay, just a little bit. The clay basically have a lot of iron in it, and the plants love iron. And then you put the sand cap, just because when you add water, it will not make the water cloudy. So the sand will protect, when you do your maintenance, when you put the plants, it won't make the water cloudy, and you get get your water clear pretty fast than normal. Water source. People use water from well. People use for water from the council water, from the tap. Some people use borewell water. Some, they are all different. If you use borewell water, there will be more hard water. You say hard water. So, and there's some requirements for the planted tank. You have to keep a check on all these things, and every time you change water, you have to make sure it has the same water chemistry, ideally. So it's not good for your planted aquarium to have very soft water. It's not a thing for planted aquarium. You need a little bit hardness, but not too much. Again, the water from the council or anything will have chlorine in it. again, not good for plants or the fish. So you have to dechlorinate it. The most simple way is to put the water in a bucket and just bubble it with air or put it under the sun. In 1 or 2 hours, all the chlorine will be gone from the water. You can use it. And if you're not sure if it's not a clean one, you can always use a filter or like a mesh to filter the water before you use them. You want your aquarium very clean water and good clarity. River water is probably should be good, but again check the hardness. If it is soft water, you have to add some chemicals to increase the hardness. If the water just like the borehole water will usually have a high GH in hardness. In that case, you need to reduce the hardness. So the trick is probably to use a reverse osmosis unit, or you can use demineralized water, which you can you use in for the car and everything. If you're on the top of the battery water, so they are demineralized water, you can use that one. So the other cheap ways of doing things. The water chemistry is very important. So most important one is the the carbonate hardness, which I'll explain in a later slide. Second one is the pH. Salinity, obviously, planted aquariums should have 0 salinity. So that's not very relevant in this case, but I listed because it's a general one you usually check for all types of aquariums. So the main ones are the pH and the temperature, and also always make sure you don't have ammonia. The ammonia, if you have a little bit, it will kill the fish, not the plants. But if you get ammonia in a fully running tank, if you get a spike of ammonia, there is something wrong. So probably there's a dead fish inside the tank, or your bacteria is probably dead. So it's not doing the job of converting ammonia to nitrates. So it just gives you predict before something wrong happens to your tank. And there are other checks that you need to do, or like maybe a 1 or 2 weekly intervals or monthly intervals on like whether you have enough nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and all those things, which I'll explain later other slides. Yeah, this is the next unit you need as a filtration unit. So you can see in the left side, the bottom. That's the type of filter we use in normally in most people's house. It's an under gravel filter. So that's there'll be a lot of pipe work with holes in it, and you use the airline to push the water out. So basically, the water, your substrate is working as a filter, and this one is should never you should never do this in a planted aquarium. It's not good for plants because a lot of water keep running through the roots, and the roots and soil have an association, and there are microbiome living in it, and it's not a good thing to having a high flow of water through the root section. So it just affects the plant's growth. Probably not the easy ones, easy growing plants, but there are some plants which actually looks really nice, but if you have the wrong filter, it doesn't grow. Then there is small types of filters which you actually hang on the side of the tank. They are good for circulating water, but it doesn't not good for doing the job. So the job here is to convert ammonia to nitrate, and that is what a filter should do. So it's not a small unit you really want. You need to actually as big as possible to convert all this waste back to like less toxic components. Most people in planted aquarium use a canister filter, which is in the middle, which I show. It looks like a bucket and having different layers of media inside. The water goes from the tank, it goes down to the bottom, and it passes through all these sponges some ceramic media. There are different types of media, even activated charcoal. Pass through all the media and then go back to the tank on the top. This is the one which most people use, and the reason is that it can house a lot of bacteria in it. There's no other disturbance, and there should be there will be a constant flow of water. It's not hindered by anything else. But again, this can be an expensive one. There are cheap ones as well. There's a brand called Eheim, EHEIM. It's very famous for canister filters, the top in the list. So I used to have a cheap one for my aquarium in the behind, but now it's running on a Eheim filter. Probably I would say the cheapest way is to not to have any of this, but just a small aquarium in the cabin under the tank. The picture is in the right side. So you can see there's a planted aquarium on the top and a small tank under the hood, and it is hidden. So this is called a sump. So that what it shows is the water from the tank goes down to the small tank underneath, and then there are different cabins just separated by sponges, and they pass through all this media. And then on the other end, there will be a pump which will transfer this clean water back to the tank. So I think this will be a more cheaper way to do than using a canister, but it's actually more efficient than the canister because it can hold more media and more surface area. So that means more bacteria. This is an optional thing to use a UV filter. So ultraviolet, it kills bacteria and also even the algae spores, tiny organisms and everything. So the trick is the water flow through that exposed to the UV light should be slow enough to kill these organisms. So it should not run like blasting. It doesn't work. You should give the minimum time of exposure to kill everything. It is very good to stop green algae in your tank because it can kill the spores. So it cannot bloom in your tank. So even if some algae is there, it cannot populate in the tank. But it's perfectly very optional thing. It can be expensive, but there are again cheap things. Chinese products with it. It should still work as long as it is at UV light. Now the another most important thing is to have a light. Plants need light to do photosynthesis to grow. There are different lights available in the market, but traditionally, what has the proved one is the metal halide one, and then people the issue with metal halide is it generates so much heat and it increases the temperature of the water. So people started moving to T5. T5 is like a tube, like a frozen tube. And there are high output T5s which people use like 4 or 5 together, like it runs in parallel. And that's a picture on the top that you see with the T5 lights on the aquarium. And all these planted aquariums, it's the beauty is to have the lights hanging on the top. And it's also better if you hang with a chain so you can adjust the height if you need it. So because sometimes some plants are too sensitive, you can then adjust the height of the light. The recent development is to use LED. Again, while the issue with T5 high output lights is again it uses a lot of electricity. So advantage of now the new LED lights is that it doesn't create temperature or affect the temperature of the tank, and also doesn't consume a lot of power. So LEDs are the new trend now, but it can also it can be expensive. So that's the downside of it. So there's a chart here on the right that shows you how much light is needed. Generally, it used to say in watts per hour, but that was when T5 was the trend. Now the LEDs don't use so much watts, the electricity unit watt. So now we can probably explain in lumens. Lumens is shows the intensity of light. So it's pretty much same. You can measure equally with any type of light. So how much light is needed is depending on what type of plants you grow. So people generally talk about low-tech tanks, high-tech tanks. So just means that low-tech plants, low-tech tanks use slow-growing plants, and they don't need much light. So in that case, you can go like 10 to 20 lumens per liter of water. And then when the high-tech tank means they really need a lot of light. Very, very advanced tank, and it's the last category here, more than 40 lumens per liter of water. This is a picture showing what actually a T5 is. So you can see the LED on the last one. The LED, I'm sure almost of you know how it looks like, but T12, T8, T5, they are all basically tubes, fluorescent tubes, but just the bigger tubes and thin tubes. The T5 is a very thin one. What is different from all other tanks is the carbon dioxide. So you have to supply constant amount of carbon dioxide in your tank. For that, you need a set of many equipments you need to run this thing. Another expensive affair, but again, there are cheaper ways to do this. The Chinese have developed cheap things for this. So you need a carbon dioxide cylinder, and there should be a regulator to adjust the flow going from the cylinder to the tank. And there is a bubble counter. The bubble counter is basically I'm not sure you can see my mouse. Can you see my mouse? Jisha, can you see my mouse?
Yes. We can see.
Yes. Okay. So the carbon dioxide goes from here, goes to the regulator, and there are two gauges here. So one of the gauge shows the pressure inside the CO2 cylinder, and the other gauge shows the pressure inside the air, the carbon dioxide line going to the tank. So the first gauge just tell you whether the cylinder is full or is going to empty. So basically, usually you get 1,000 rating when it's full, and when it's going to empty, it goes back to 0. The other one it shows the pressure inside the line. Usually, it should be around between 20 to 30 for a good amount of flow and everything. And then the carbon dioxide come through this path and just go into this chamber. This is the bubble counter. So this is a chamber with filled with water. Some people use oil as well to fill. So basically, the carbon dioxide comes from this valve, and it comes in as like bubbles. So, and you can adjust how many bubbles you want to go into the line. So that's how you measure how much carbon dioxide goes. So basically, most people go for 3 bubbles in a second. And from the top of this chamber, the actual carbon dioxide line goes to the tank. And when it goes to the tank, they always put a check valve. This is called a check valve. A check valve is just to stop, see if you lose power, then the CO2 will stop. And because the other end is in the tank, it will slowly start siphoning water, and you don't want the water going into the regulator. So the check valve will just when there is no CO2 going, it will just close the valve and stop water going into other expensive equipments. And inside the tank, you need a diffuser. So basically, these bubbles are again break into very minute bubbles. So the idea here is, the more tiny is your bubble, there is more surface area for the carbon dioxide to diffuse into the water. So There are so many different types of diffusers, but basically what you need is a very, very tiny bubbles. And when they're tiny, they also don't go to the surface very quickly. Once it is gone to the surface, you lose that whatever carbon dioxide is inside the bubble, you lose it. You want most of it diffusing into the water. So you need a good diffuser. And then the black stuff here, which I hope you can see this one. In this picture, you have this one. It's called a solenoid. Job of solenoid is you can connect it with a timer, and you can when the timer stops, it will shut the valve of the carbon dioxide. So it can open the valve and shut the valve depending on how you program the timer. So you don't want carbon dioxide going in the night time when there is no light, because plants are respiring, they are releasing carbon dioxide, and then if you inject more carbon dioxide, it just kills your fish. Okay, now there are cheap ways of doing it. I'm not going in detail in these things, but just giving you an awareness. You can Google. There are so many videos in YouTube. This a DIY method, do-it-yourself method. So there are two methods people have used. Traditionally, people use the method one, mixing yeast and sugar, and the fermentation happens, and there's a carbon dioxide releases, and it is passed through a baking soda. Mixed water, and basically it's just remove something, and the end product is just pure CO2, and that you pass. Basically, this is a picture here, and you'd be having two bottles, one bottle with the citric acid. That's a method two. It's a picture of method two, but anyway, in both cases you have two bottles. So one of the bottle produce CO2, and these two methods are pretty different, but they look like same. And the pure CO2 again, will go through a bubble counter and to the tank. So the issue with this one is when the resource get exhausted. I mean, when all the fermentation happen, you have to refill with the yeast sugar. You have to change bottles, put the fresh yeast and sugar. So the CO2 flow is not stable, and people have so many issues with it, because you don't want your CO2 flow varying around. So it should be very stable. But if you don't want to spend so much money, this is the way to go. Carbonate hardness. This is the one I was talking about, the most very important water quality parameter. It's very hard to believe in the beginning, because no one has told you before. Even in your university or degree or something, you learned this by experience. And the experts. So basically, what it is doing is it stopping your pH to fluctuate. The worst thing can happen to your tank is the pH fluctuations is not good for your plants and the fish. So carbonate hardness, if you have enough carbonate hardness in your tank, it can stop the fluctuations of pH. This is why I was saying, it's not good to have very soft water, because soft water have no general hardness, which is GH, and no KH, carbonate hardness. Now, these two parameters are two different things. Don't confuse yourself. So general hardness is GH, is measure the calcium and magnesium salts inside the tank, the water. And carbonate hardness is the measure of carbonates and bicarbonates in the water. Now, you might think, why carbonates and bicarbonates so important? It's because we inject carbon dioxide in the tank. The more carbon dioxide you inject into the water, it is forming basically react with the water and basically produce carbonic acid. So it's an acid, carbonic acid, and it can reduce your pH down. It bring your pH down, push the pH down. So, but if you have enough carbonates and bicarbonates, it can react with this and can stabilize the formation of carbonic acid. So it is to control the the carbonate hardness is about balancing the ratio of carbonate and bicarbonates in the water. The carbonate hardness is also called as alkalinity. Now, don't confuse this again, the term with alkaline. There are two different terms. Alkaline is just having a higher pH, you say it's alkaline, and if it is a low pH, you said it's acidic. And alkalinity is a term which is completely different. It is same as the carbonate hardness. What else I should say in here? Yeah, so it's usually measured in degrees of KH. So that is why it's called DKH. And I have put some measures here for better understanding. If you know parts per million ppm, so 1 DKH is 17.9 ppm. For a planted tank, we aim to have a carbonate hardness between 3 and 8 degrees. I'll explain this in a moment in the next slide. Before that, let me see what else I have to say in this slide. Yeah, acid also comes from nitrates. When you have more nitrates, it's also push your pH down. So it's mainly from the accumulation of nitrates and carbon dioxide generates acid, and having more carbonate hardness will stop the pH going down. Yeah, so again, if your water source have low pH, low KH, you can add potassium bicarbonate or sodium bicarbonate to increase the KH. To decrease, if it's already have a high KH, you can decrease by just using demineralized water or reverse osmosis water. So the end product of reverse osmosis water is like soft water, and then you have to add sodium bicarbonate to bring the KH up again to the required level. How do you know how much oxygen is going in your tank? So that's why about the carbon dioxide monitoring. Again, so we need more gadgets to measure this. Usually, most planted aquariums aim for 30 ppm of carbon dioxide target, and I will explain why it is 30 ppm. If you look on the chart on the right hand side, this is a chart, a cross table between pH and the degrees of carbonate hardness, and you can see the color chart here. The color chart, basically, you want the numbers inside in the cells is showing the concentration of carbon dioxide. So if you look on 30 ppm carbon dioxide, it's the green zone basically it's referring to. So the green zone, for each pair of pH and DKH, it's different. So if you have a DKH or degrees of carbon hardness of 4, just for example 4, your pH should be between 6.6 and 6.9 to have the required amount of carbon dioxide in your tank. So you have. So now why I'm saying the range should be between 3 and 8 DKH. It's because the plants can grow in full swing, like it can absorb all the required nutrients when the pH is between 6.5 and 7. 6.5 is the most ideal for ideal pH for the plants to absorb all nutrients. So if you look on 6.5 pH here, you can see the DKH corresponding to it is 3, or so 3 to 8 gives something a pH between 6.5 and 7, and that range is good for fish as well. So that's the range you should be targeting. And how do you measure it? So this is on the top, you can see an equipment called drop checker. This is something you actually put inside the tank. So inside the drop checker, you will have a pH indicator solution. Usually it is a bromothiol blue. So when there is not enough carbon dioxide inside the water, it will be blue. If it is too much, carbon dioxide, it will be yellow in color, and if it's in the optimal range, which is the 30 ppm, it will be in green color. So that's how people check how much carbon dioxide is there in the tank water. Now this is a slide showing pearling. Now don't confuse this with my job. It's not about making pearls. This is a terminology used in planted aquarium hobbies when the plants release oxygen by photosynthesis. So if you have, sorry, okay. So if you have enough carbon dioxide in the tank, the plants will be using the carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, and it will release oxygen. You can see the bubbles on the tip of the plants. So that's they are the oxygen bubbles. So they will be releasing oxygen. It's a beautiful view to see all the plants releasing oxygen, and that just shows your planted tank is doing the right thing. Is they are very, very happy. So on the right side, I'm showing a video of the pearling happening in my own tank, which happened here. So you can see the bubbles going out there. So that's why you call what you call pearling. I hope you can see the video. Okay, part 2. So we finished about what equipments are needed. So now the procedure, how you do it. So this picture here is a real aquarium, not a photoshopped again. This is a aquarium which grabbed the first prize in a contest. I think is a contest run by the ADA company. And this again, it's very hard to believe it's a real aquarium, but only seeing the fish, which actually make you think, oh, it could be an aquarium. And there are so many things to observe in this thing. So they are nature aquariums. So you basically recreate a nature in here. Now, what I'm going to show is the person how he designed this aquarium. Okay, so there are 4 steps here. So he basically the first picture here, inspiration. So he got inspired by nature. So that's a picture from which he got the inspiration to create this tank. And then he started collecting materials which look something similar to what he saw in the nature. The third part is the scaping, aquascaping. So to arrange, keep things in place. You make a design. This is a area of art. You need some artistic skills, imagination. You first need imagination, and then putting things in the right place is it's a really artist job. There are many things to plan and do things here before you do it, because picture in third one, which is the aquascaping. That is a finished product. When he finished after his aquascaping, but that is not what it looks like in his imagination, because once the plants start growing, you don't see all these fine details. You just get covered up. So the imagined version looks actually different from actually when you finish the aquascaping. You have to imagine which features are going to show up once my plants are grown to this size. Whether my the few stones which I kept, which should be obvious, will they be obvious once the plants are grown big enough? So the fourth one, you can see the difference. The third and fourth one, some features are completely covered up and you can't see them, but some are very obvious. So these are all part of your imagination and how you design it. That takes a lot of time to find the right substrate, the right food. And probably you also need to some carpentry jobs to make just a normal wood with more features in it. Sometimes you have to glue them to the right place because some stones may not sit in the way you want. Then you have to glue it. Sometimes when you style the aquascape, you should see the tank from the front to the back. So it should be always going uphill. So you can see the back and the front. So in this picture, you can see the front is very low. The back goes really, really high. So the thickness of substrate in the back is like really almost to the half of the tank, I guess. Yeah. Then you need the right aquascaping tools. So now you have there are different types of equipments here. One is a sand flattener, which you use to arrange the soil. Then you need scissors. Scissors is for when the plants grow, you have to trim them down, otherwise it will keep growing outside the tank. So to keep the beauty and the design you want, you always have to keep pruning them. So trim the plants. Tweezers are used to plant the plants. So basically, you get the stem of the plant, use the tweezer, hold the plant, and then insert in the substrate. The tweezers, it's nice to have a angle in the end, so you can actually see where the plants actually go in the substrate. If it's straight, it's hard to see where your plants are going in the substrate. And then you can see a root tab injector. So that is like time to time you probably have to add fertilizers. Some fertilizers come in the form of a pellet. So this is a tool to inject fertilizer tabs in the substrate in a live planted aquarium. And most essentially, you need a fish net. So basically, it's not to scoop the fish, but you can use for scooping the fish. But when you trim the plants, they start floating in the tank, so you need the net to scoop the trimmed plants and keep everything clean and neat. You need a brush to scrub the glass tanks. No matter how good you look after, there'll be algae growing in the tanks, at least to a minimal level, and you have to keep scrubbing to keep it look nice and clean. So this slide shows the setting up procedure of Aquascape. So this is an example. You can just go to this picture number 6. That is your imagination when you start from picture number 1. So you can see in picture number 6, when you imagine there are 2 big stones going in. So so when you actually do it, so the number 1, the guy, whoever it is, he put a styrofoam or thermocol, so the weight doesn't, when there's a lot of pressure coming in with the water and plants, the stones can move and it can give a crack to your glass tank. So to stop that happening, just before putting the gravel, he put a thermocol so the stones can sit comfortably on top of it. So even if there's a slight movement, it's not going to affect the glass. The second slide picture shows you put the substrate. Again, there are different types of substrate and for where they should go and everything. So in this example, here I used 2 types of substrates. So one is a very nutrient rich, which is, you can see in the number 4 slide, a dark version, they are more nutrient rich. And around the other areas, it's like a play sand or something. So it's not much nutrient rich. So basically the idea probably is you want to grow the plants in the nutrient rich substrate should grow maybe faster, and in the sand probably not growing that fast. So maybe they should stay low. So, and you can separate these areas. So here I've used a mesh. Mesh to keep separate of different types of the substrate used here. So here actually I have used 3 substrates. So you can see then the second picture there is more a gravel-like thing. You can get different types of substrate already with bacteria in it. So it's easy to kickstart the bacteria cycle. And so here we used 3 types of substrate here, and then he put the stones, and that's a hardscape in picture number 5, and the distance from picture number 5 to 6 is long. It's not on the next day you get a nice planted aquarium. It's probably maybe 6 months or 7 months of difference between picture number 5 and 6. And then once you put everything in place, you can start filling the water no, sorry, you have to plant. You have to plant them. So before planting them, you have to spray the full substrate and make it wet. So you plant when they are wet. Um, and then once you finish planting, planting takes a little bit time, so you have to keep spraying. It may not finish in one day, so you may take a week or something. It's okay for them to be outside water. All it needs is the plant should be wet and moist. Most of the aquatic plants used in aquarium are not truly aquatic species. They are, semi-terrestrial types, so they are pretty happy without water around it. And they will start growing. So you can take your time to actually finish planting them. It doesn't have to be in one day. So before you fill water, the water pressure is going to disturb the substrate. So you have to put something like a stone, or here I used a cup, so the water doesn't fall straight on the substrate and make a hole there. And reduce the pressure. It should flow very slowly, so it doesn't make the water cloudy. So once it is full, you should be all your lights, carbon dioxide, and filter should be ready to go once it is filled. So once it is filled, start running the filter and carbon dioxide, and then keep running it. And there'll be a lot of maintenance work in the beginning, because when you start a new tank, there'll be a lot of ammonia, and you have to change the water regularly until you reach that stability between ammonia converting to the nitrates. So that's the last slide here, is probably showing a fully established planet tank after 2 months from it was set up. Now, there are different types of aquascaping styles. So basically, there's one basic one rule. It's used in photography. It's called golden ratio. What's shown in the first picture here. So you don't keep any. There are in an aquarium, or even in a photography, the subject is. If you look at all the expert photographers, that the main subject is never in the center. It will be slightly off the center. So that's what's shown here. You can see in the first picture, there's a sand flow, or like a pathway, and it's not exactly in the center, slightly off the center. So that's the best way to give a more aesthetic view of the aquarium. Generally, there are 3 styles. So some people make it like an island. So there will be heaps of plants in the middle, and then radiuses on the sides. So they are called convex shape ones. And some other are creating a valley. So there'll be 2 mountains both sides, and there's a channel or in the middle. So they're concave style. And some people just do all the plants in one side, and so there'll be big or small plants in one side on the top of the hill, and then maybe larger plants or maybe low-lying plants to the other side of the tank. So this is just if you look at most people, they'll be using one of these styles, regardless of whether they think they were doing it. It ends up one of these styles. The other terminology used is the endpoint or vantage point, focal point. There are different names for it. Basically, what this means is, this gives a sense of depth in the tank. If you look at that picture, it's very difficult to believe it's a 1 meter tank, or maybe it could be only a 1 meter, but the depth looks like maybe at least a 500 meters going. So it gives a sense of like a very long tunnel. So how people create this is, you need a endpoint, which people, at first look, they look on the farthest point or the endpoint, and that gives an illusion of a depth in the tank. So how people create is by doing planning which plant should go where, and they put it as different layers. So in the next the picture below, you can see there are 5 layers here. So in the first layer, in the front, this just bare sand here, so basically nothing there. And in the second layer, I think they start using some big plants. So as you go farther or more layers on the backwards, you use smaller plants, so it just gives, they are far away than close. So bigger plants in the front, and as you go to the last layer in the back, use smaller tiny plants, and then it gives more depth to the view. And this view won't stay long, as because you have to keep trimming it, pruning it, to keep that design, that feeling. If the plants outgrow, you lose that depth, or sense of depth. Now I'll explain the different types of plants. So this is one variety called a big group actually called carpet plants. So carpet plants, they don't grow tall; they stay low, and they just spread through the substrate, just like a lawn in the garden. Uh, this is one type of plant category that inspired me. Or I want to create a garden lawn in my aquarium. They look so nice, so different, unreal. So I spend a little bit more time on growing carpet plants than actually doing big ones. So there are different types. There are many varieties, but I think these ones I have tried. Mon Carlo is one I got success with. This very smallest carpet plant used in the world is the HC Cuba. You can see they are very tiny, but they are so sensitive to temperature as well. So if you, I understand it need 26 degrees. If you have like 30 degrees, you probably have to run a chiller in your aquarium. So I didn't get much success with it because I was not having a chiller. So I went with the Monte Carlo. They are a bit more stable, tolerate to a little bit higher temperatures, and also have a longer root, so they can stay inside the substrate. Dwarf hairgrass is another one which you need minimal trimming. You don't have to trim at all. It's easy maintenance and like gives a good green lush view. Glossostigma is like running. You can see the runners going through. It's very hard to trim them actually, and they are creep into everywhere. So a bit difficult, but in high density they look nice. The planting technique for carpet plants is like you get them like a bunch like this. Don't use scissors to cut because it will it will kill the roots. All you need is to pull them apart. Just pull them apart and into small bunches, and then plant them in the substrate. Stem plants. I think most of the plants used in aquarium are stem plants. The stem plants, basically it have a stem. They grow a bit taller, so you use them in mid ground and background, not in the front. In the front, you need very low-lying carpet-like plants. Stem plants can go in the middle or in the back. Again, some species grow very tall. Some keep like a bushy nature. So these are different types of stem plants I have grown in my tank. They are all grow very nicely. The red ones are particularly very nice to see in a green environment. They look they stand apart. It's very easy to propagate them. So if you have a fully grown plant, just cut them. There are when you grow a plant, the plants will have white shoots coming off in different nodes. So just look on one of the node, and if you have a white small tiny root coming off, just cut below the node and just plant it inside the substrate, and that becomes a full another plant. So as you see in the picture here in the first one, that's how it is. So very easy to propagate. The third type is the rosette plants. Rosette plants are not stem plants, obviously, because they grow like a bunch. You don't see like a main. There is no main stem here. Examples of Vallisneria, which is most people know in India, and then swords, Amazon swords. So there is a bunch of leaves coming from a root. So the way how you propagate these ones are actually to take the plant out of the you have to take the plant out of the substrate and just focus on the roots. There'll be you can separate them from the roots. You won't be killing the plants because there are many divisions in the roots, and you can separate them, and then you have to plant everything back into the tank. So if you have one plant, take it out, split it into 3 from the roots, then plant all the 3 back in the tank. So that's how we propagate. Some rosette plants have a runner, as you can see in this slide in the first picture. So basically, in these types, you just need to cut the runner somewhere here. So this part have a root, the other part also have a root. So there are two different plants. So that's how you do it. Then another category is the hardscape plants. These are plants that you actually don't put in the substrate. So you actually tie them up in a stone or a driftwood, and they can grow just like the orchids. So they are like underwater orchids. They have a rhizome. If you see in this picture, the leaves. This is a jar of fern, I think. The leaves come out from a rhizome. The rhizome and these tiny structures, like a thread-like structures, at the roots. So how you propagate is just cut the rhizome, and then when you by chance, if you are planting them in the substrate, make sure the rhizome is not under the soil, because they breathe through the rhizome. If the rhizome is under the soil, it just you kill the plant. Only the roots are supposed to go into the water, but for these type of plants, it can absorb nutrients from water, so you can tie them up on a wood or a stone. So that is Ferns Anubias. These are like very slow growing, and they don't need much light to grow. They are typical plants for a low tech plant tank. The next category here is the moss, and the lower half here. Different types of mosses. Again, you don't need much light for them, but if you don't manage your nutrients, they can easily get algae on it. Here you can see a tree. This is actually moss tied up on a wood, and it just trimmed in a way that it looks like a tree. So these are very artistic capabilities here, showing skills here. So they are perfectly, you can recreate all this nature in your aquarium. How to propagate moles is basically you pull apart a little bit moles, and you have to tie them on a mesh or a stone. This is a mesh. Just put 2 mesh together with the moss inside, and it will come out of the mesh when they grow. Floater plants is the last category. They don't they float on the surface of the aquarium. Again, I'm sure most of you know these plants are in India: Salvinia, Azolla, water lettuce, or pistia, duckweed, lemna. So these are probably, I'm not sure. Depends on your taste whether you want them in an aquarium. The duckweed can be quite dangerous. They populate so fast, and it will be very hard to get rid of them from a tank. But again, floaters, when they populate, they just form a layer on the top, stop the light going into the plants in the substrate. So plants with high light requirements, if you have in the substrate, it's probably not a good idea to have them floaters in your tank. Part 3, the aquarium management, the last part of this talk. So basically, when you start an aquarium, it's very essential you have to cycle the tank. So when I say cycle, this is a world terminology used. If you're not familiar, it's basically developing the beneficial bacteria to grow and start the cycling from converting ammonia to nitrites. So you have to start an aquarium basically with an ammonia. So you have to first grow the bacteria which feed on ammonia. And when they are good enough, the byproduct is nitrite. And once nitrate is generated in the tank, then the nitrite consuming bacteria start to grow. Again, the byproduct from that is the nitrate, and then when there is enough nitrate consuming bacteria will start to grow. People do different methods to start the cycling. Um, uh, I always start with one fish inside the tank. The fecus or from the fish produce ammonia, and that can start the. It's a slow process. You don't put like 10 fish at a time. You slowly have to introduce a few fish at a time. But another method is like, you can actually inoculate with the chemicals, ammonia or urea or something, but you should be very careful. You cannot overdose. You just have to keep an eye on how much you actually use. So when you inoculate, or when you put the chemicals, you have to test how much nutrient is actually going into the water. There are different test kits available to monitor how much ammonia, nitrate, and nitrates are there in the water. Typically, when the ammonia is consumed, and if there's no ammonia in the tank, you have to still keep feeding ammonia, otherwise that bacteria will die. So it's ideally you have to keep giving more ammonia, nitrate in a constant manner, so that you grow all the three types of bacteria in the tank. Once, so it's not a one time introduction. You have to keep introducing them to the bacteria to grow. The cycle what I mentioned is showing here in the second one here. So in here, ammonia is added step by step. As long as when the ammonia, you can the first few weeks of this tank is very critical. You have to keep monitoring every day, test the nutrients. When the ammonia is going down, give more. And when there is nitrite is going down, again add more ammonia. So you have to slowly develop the quantity of nitrates. When you have more good nitrates, zero ammonia, zero nitrate, that's when your tank is ready for the fish, introducing fish. And when you can perfectly start the aquarium with plants, because ammonia is a fertilizer, so you can start plants in the beginning. But when adding fish is not for the first week of the tank. You have to keep monitoring, and when you have all these bacteria running, you can start the fish. So the plants can grow while this happens, so that's fine. Yeah, types of algae. So these are issues coming when you start running the tank. You will get algae, and there's no doubt about it. Everyone gets algae, but you have some best practices to keep it minimum, or there are some protocols to fix issues. So these are different some general types of algae that most people encounter. If you get a brown algae, they are probably because of diatoms. Diatoms need nitrates, silica. So if you have all these nitrates or phosphates in higher quantities, that is the cause of this algae. So you have to reduce nitrates and phosphates. So that's why I say you have to keep testing. Most people go for algicides, so basically that kills the algae, but that is a short-term solution. It's not fixing the real cause of the algae developing thing. So always you have to look for the cause. Why there is algae, and is it because my nutrients? Is it because of more light? Or algae have the same requirements as plants. It can be light, it can be carbon dioxide, or it can be nutrients. So when plants don't use all of them, and if any of these remain in the tank in excess, that's when the algae breaks out. The algae use all that excess nutrients which is unavailable to the plants and start growing. So you have to keep the nutrient, light, and carbon dioxide in a balance. So, all of these algae are because of a particular reason, and there's so much information in the internet. Um, uh, One of the most difficult one is the last one here, blackbird algae. I have this algae in this tank. Very hard to get rid of it. Usually, people say, I'm not sure, but people say it's because of the instability of carbon dioxide, and that aligns with the reasoning of for my tank, because my carbon dioxide is not don't have a constant flow, because I use a cheap thing, and yeah, it's very hard to uh, remove this blackbird algae. It looks nasty, so it doesn't look nice. There are other issues as well. You can get a layer of scum on the surface of the water, and that's generally because of bacteria. I usually use a small cup to scoop them out, and but it doesn't happen always. If your bacteria, all your beneficial bacteria are running and good, it should not happen. There's another one, looks like a green algae. It's a blue-green algae, which is not an algae. It's actually a bacteria. It's called a cyanobacteria. All of these are because of imbalances in the tank. So it's just you have to investigate, keep monitoring, and do as minor fixes to make it right. Cloudy water, again, bacteria. It may go disappear in a few days sometimes. If not, again, it's the bacteria imbalance issue. White fungus is probably sometimes if you have driftwood inside, the organic matter start to decay. But usually you don't have to do anything with this. They disappear in a few weeks. So you just have to bear with it, having your tank looking ugly. Just bear with it. Another one is you get a brown water here, which is basically because of the leaching of tannin from the woods. So if you are using woods in your tank, very likely you will get a brown color, more brown tinge to your water. But some people like it, in very low brown color. Then this one is actually looking nice to me. But if it's too much, it's just look again not good. If you choose to keep wood, probably do more water exchanges so it won't get that much dark. What fish you can put in planted tanks? It's not a lot of fish you can put. Mostly just if you heard the previous lecture by Kumar sir, it's small fishes. They go really well. If you use big ones, they will they can eat the plants. They can uproot the plants. Goldfish is excellent for uprooting everything and destroying your tank. So certainly no for any carp varieties probably. Best one is tetras. There are so many different tetras you can use. There are a couple of few species which are not good, but you can find it from internet. Yeah, so tetras are good. Angelfish, very peaceful guys, won't do anything harm to you, just float around, so they are good. Gaurami, not the big ones, but small dwarf gauramis, they are good. Guppies are good. Rainbows, they are endemic, native fish types. A lot of them in Australia here. They look colorful as well, just a very unexplored area, but they do look beautiful. Discuss the most expensive, probably the most expensive fish. So if you are confident with your planted tank, you can put it. These guys also have a very specific water chemistry requirements. So I think it's based on your confidence, because they are sensitive to different changes in water chemistry as well. So if you are running a planted tank with the discus, I would say you are an expert or pro. Algae management. How you manage outbreak of algae? So just have a look on the picture here. The normal plants. What is the nutrient requirement? You can see 79% they use carbon. The macronutrients, which is the nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, comes only next to carbon. So where do they get the carbon? So that's why we inject carbon dioxide. But I know most people, it's an expensive thing. You cannot probably not affordable to inject carbon dioxide. But instead of that, there's another option people do is inject liquid carbon. So that's basically glutaraldehyde. So I'm not sure about the scientific side of it, but it does. Most people agree that the plants can use the carbon from liquid carbon. So they, many companies. The picture here is the products of Seachem brand. And one of them is called Flourish Excel over here. It doesn't say what ingredient it is, but it is the glutaraldehyde and it is the liquid carbon. They just say liquid carbon, but anyone who claims they are giving a liquid carbon product, it is 100 probably a glutaraldehyde, nothing else. Why algae happens is because the imbalance of the nutrient, light, and carbon dioxide. So you have to keep one of them fixed and then try to adjust other two, or at least keep two fixed and adjust the third one. So most people, it's best easiest way is to keep the carbon dioxide constant. If you're using a cylinder, if not, then you can keep the light, the hours of photo period, how much time you turn on, keep the lights on, you can keep that fixed and monitor, test the nutrients and see which nutrient is coming in excess and try to reduce that nutrient. Or if you cannot reduce one nutrient, you can actually increase the other nutrients, so the plant, all the nutrients becomes available to the plants, because they use the nutrients in certain ratios. That is what's in the picture here. So the picture shows 12% nitrogen, 6% potassium, 2% phosphorus. So if the 2% phosphorus is completely utilized, the rest of the nitrogen and potassium is sitting there without not being utilized, and that's when the algae come and use them. So it's every tank have a different consumption ratio, and it's only by trial and error that what your tank needs and how much nutrient it uses in different times. Nutrient deficiency, there's different ways you can use. Most easiest way is to look on the leaves. So this is a picture in the left here showing how the leaf reflect the deficiency of one nutrient. So that's iron deficiency, yellowing of leaf, and the veins inside. So look at this example here. It's still yellowing leaves, but the green veins on it. So that's showing a zinc deficiency. Zinc is probably a very minor element required for the plants to grow. So the main nutrients are the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And iron is pretty important as well. They love iron. But the rest of it are in small quantities. So there are many fertilizing techniques for the planted tanks, but the most common one and most popular one is the estimative index fertilization method. I'm not going into details of it, but you search and you'll find so many different scientific explanations for it. But in just one line, what it is you give more nutrients than what the plants need. So every day you dose nutrients into the tank. And that amount you dose is actually more than enough for the plant. So there's be excess nutrients in the tank. And remember, if you have excess nutrients, there'll be algae coming up. So what they suggest is you follow a weekly thing. So day 1 to day 7. So day 1 has some nutrients inject dosing. Day 2 on day 7 you do a 50% water change. So all that excess nutrients will be gone. And then you restart every next week with dosing the second thing. So that's the one method. A second method is the perpetual preservation system, PPS. Again, in one line, what it means is you dose nutrients only what is needed in a 24-hour cycle. So basically, you have to you dose only for the next 24 hours, not anything beyond that. Again, I think this needs some sort of water change cycle in a fixed manner. Third method is you test each nutrient, and you have a target, and you dose only if it is not up to the target. So that's the third method. All these minor nutrients, in market you get them as a mix, like a trace elements mix solution, and it will have all these minor nutrients. The major nutrients like the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium comes separate in separate bottles, and even iron comes separate. The iron is very important for red color plants. It gives the red color just get more brighter when you have more iron. Two famous books, most Planet Tank hobbyists are crazy about it. There are two books by the Takashi Yamano, which is not shown in this picture. But these are recent. The left one, Crystal Castleman, that's a very recent one. It's a very excellent book describing a huge variety of aquatic plants and their growing method, what requirements, lighting, everything. And second one is this Sunken Gardens by Karen Randall. In fact, these two authors have worked together, and they know each other. But the books have come out in different times. The most recent one is the left one, and it's like I can say probably an encyclopedia of aquatic plants. This is probably the last slide, but it's just a video. Jisha, do we have 8 minutes for the video?
Sure. You can proceed.
Okay, so
Deepak.
okay. So this video is just showing how the one person just took a video from scratch, starting an aquascaping a tank and to like the full-fledged running one. So I will just play this one, and you can see, how he do this planet tank. And when he do this, you must think that he probably have done maybe a months of research of how we want to do that in that particular day. So here you go.
Iguami.
Sorry, Isha, did you say something?
Yeah, it says Iwagumi. Iwagumi. The beginning.
Sorry.
Iwagumi. Is it a Japanese word?
Yeah. It is a wrong name. It should be Guami.
Okay.
I think the Japanese style aquarium. So they are inspired from a Japanese culture. Basically, this is an arrangement of different types of stones. Each stone have a different name, which I can't remember. They are Japanese names, and usually they use only one carpet plant. It's just look a big field with rocks and one carpet plant. That's usually that style is called. Anyway, let's play the video. So that's it. I think just trying to go. So that's the last slide. So that's everything. I think I took long. I was thinking to finish at 4, but it's 4:30.
It's okay.
So that's the picture of my the tank behind me when I started, and that's one after almost a year after. It's not looking that good now. So anyway, so we have issues with it now. Okay, if any questions, answer. And yeah, maybe yeah, quickly will.
I
Yeah,
have a query. And this year, I have a query.
yeah.
I had a beautiful planted aquarium with a school of neon tetras and sucker. Are you hearing me?
Sorry, once again.
I had a beautiful planted aquarium with
Yeah.
a school of neon tetras and
Yeah.
sucker. But last summer, I have lost all tetras. Later
Yeah.
on, I introduced 4 goldfishes and 2 carps.
Hmm.
We have already hinted the issue, but now I am losing my plants from the aquarium. The issues like uprooting and uprooting regularly happen, and these fishes are devouring the leaves and making these into small fragments. And actually, what is the solution? On my personal behalf, I think should I prefer a green planted aquarium than a bare aquarium with fishes? SOS.
Well, I'm not. Well, when you get a fish die, you have to investigate why it was died. So important to test all the nutrients and if any toxicity is there. Tetras should go pretty good with the planted aquarium, but certainly not goldfishes. Yeah, I think when you have an issue, it's straight away you need to find what it is rather than trying something else. So yeah, so this no magic bullet there. So to reply what happened to your thing, it has to be done at that time. It's probably something in the water chemistry should be.
Actually feeding them actually.
You basically don't feed much. That's a mistake everyone do. They feed more. You just feed only what the fish eat. So you just have to put a few flakes and see if they feed. If they don't feed, don't put more feed. If they're feeding, just give bit by bit. And you don't have to feed them every day. I feed them like once in a week. They can find food from inside the substrate and everything. So and they can. It's better to keep, for the sake of the aquarium. It's better to keep them starved a little bit than keeping them full. Yeah.
And one more thing, while I am keeping Tetras, sometimes I have seen small thread-like worms all over the aquarium. Especially, it will pop up when the aquarium filtering is not working, when the power supply is low.
So one issue is
It's
thing you
like
said
a thread, white thread.
thread like worms, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get them in my tank also, but not too many. There's a few. You can keep like a community tank. Some fish will eat them. Tetras definitely. You can keep with guppies and angel. Some of them will feed them, and then it's also good to keep some algae eating fish. It's not. Some people say sucker, but I don't think that's a good fish. Anyway, the most famous one is the Siamese algae eater, SAE. Very famous. They actually eat all the algae if they break out. Yeah. So yeah, thread-like worms. Yeah, I think you just have to. I usually keep a few mix of species, ensuring that they won't attack each other and won't destroy my plants. So I think that's the way to go. Just keeping one species is good for something, but challenging for solving many other issues.
Dr. Deepak, it's Manoj, MJ Manoj here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sham, I have two questions for you.
Yeah, keep asking.
First of all, it was an excellent session, and it was very informative and very productive as well. So thank you so much first.
Yeah, thank you.
And my question to you is, one is it's something relevant to Kerala, and as you know, we have a lot of water bodies, and we have brackish water, lakes, rivers, seas, and ponds and tanks as well. So my question is, you said a little bit of hardness or soft water not good, and you need a little bit of hardness. No borewell, no river water, and all these things. So which is a water body which is so close to what your formula is? That's my first question. In Kerala, basically in Kerala. The second one is about underwater aquariums. And I'm talking about one aquarium that I've seen. That is Loro Parque Aquarium. That is in Tenerife, South Tenerife. That's a island, situated in South Atlantic. And what I've seen is they have recreated ecosystems from different parts of the world. And I do remember the guide making a reference saying that it's not that difficult to maintain the filter plant or something like that. So I'm not sure, but so just on a commercial grounds, is it possible in any way that we will in near future get an underwater aquarium in Kerala? And what is the difference between an underwater aquarium and the one we have been mentioning about? These are my two questions. Thank you.
Yeah. For the first question, it's about the water. I think, well, if you ask what's the best water, I can always say something. I would say river or where they naturally grow. But it's not a feasible thing for everyone to get water from a river all the time. So, um, so the best way, I mean, if you're really serious about it, just get a reverse osmosis unit. So it doesn't matter from where your water comes. Just you run through our unit and you get like really soft water, and then you have to add hardness, increasing chemicals to adjust to the target range. And always you have to age the water, so don't straight away put into the aquarium. Just in a bucket, keep it bubbling for a couple of days. So that's the best approach to do it in the right way. Yeah, so I think I answered that first one. Second one, what do you actually mean by underwater aquarium? I not fully, I didn't get it fully.
Yeah, it's basically this aquarium is situated by the seaside, and you get to see the marine life, underwater aquarium, not the one the conventional one, but the one
Yeah. So
under the water.
basically, you see them underwater. Is that right?
Yeah, you walk in,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have to
and like in a tunnel. Yeah,
underwater. So
yeah. I
we
think.
have a lot of we have a lot of water sources in Kerala, and I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that might be something which
Yeah.
is possible in our state.
I think it's certainly possible. In my place here in Darwin, there is one artificial. It's artificial, it's not a part of a
Yeah,
natural one, but it's still a big system with a tunnel inside, and people can watch. It's a big system, and I think it depends on the uh, how much tourism you get to be commercially viable. I think in India or Kerala, it's not very bad. But I'm not sure. Even in Mumbai, I think last year, I've been many times there before Tarapur Aquarium. Um, it's so many people there, but the aquariums are all not up to the mark. It was dirty, but there was still a lot of people coming in. I don't know what really people are after, but it was really not maintaining really good. I think so. Tourism wise, I think there will be always people there. So I think there's a good potential there to run it, and you need the right people to do it. I think it's probably a big knowledge gap, or maybe the main issue is if you don't get the right people for the pay you get there. So someone is serious, passionate, but at the end you have to live a life, and if you don't get that money from such a job, and you won't get the right people, and you end up giving that to less technical people, and who probably don't know what they should be doing.
All right, thank you.
Mm.
Any other questions, please?
Few questions in the chat box.
Does injecting carbon dioxide reduce the oxygen content? It doesn't really reduce the oxygen content. It just you know the fish usually go really normal and happy with the it's just you have to control the carbon dioxide. You can't, if you push too much carbon dioxide, that will kill the fish, but there's usually have enough oxygen for the fishes to go, so that's not an issue.
Deepak, one issue that we need to address is inherent snail infestation. That can be a major issue with the planted aquarium. I think. We need
Sorry,
to
sir.
manage snail issues with the infestation of snails in the aquariums.
Snails, yeah. Yeah, that's a really good one that I missed out. I should have put something there. But yeah, you get snails all the time, and the main pathway of snail is when you get new plants from someone else. There'll be eggs stick to the leaves, and they actually start populating in your tank. And if you give excess food to the fish, that also you actually feed the snails as well if they are in excess amount. Some snails are good. Good in the sense that if they eat algae. So I think there's a couple of snails which are famous. So they keep them in planted tanks usually to get rid of the algae. But some can be like really infestatious, and usually it's a hand picking way that you can manage it, because you can't add any chemicals. You kill the fish or plants, affect the plants, so you have to keep picking them. At some stage I was having snails. Maybe one solution is to not feed the fish at all. Then basically you starve the snails. It did worked for me sometime. And also if you add glutaraldehyde, it's again it is basically not only a liquid carbon, it's also an algaecide. It can, if you dose a little bit over, it can kill the fish. So it is toxic to snails as well. So what kills a fish is, if anything, more than beyond the tolerate limit. So it's just a science everywhere which you apply. Even when you treat a fish with diseases, if you expose them too much to the treatment, it will kill the fish. If you expose less, it kills the parasites or whatever fungi or bacteria. So it depends on the size of the animal. So yeah, I usually I handpick and take them out, and sometimes I starve the tank, so they don't have food, they cannot reproduce. Glutaraldehyde also helped me. I'm one of my favorite chemical that I add in a daily basis. Just use keep the water clear and stop. And because I also have the blackbird algae, it can kill it can stop them populating. So it's a really good one. I don't add any other chemicals usually. If at all I needed, it's the glutaraldehyde. Yeah.
At what dose we can add glutarag here? 10%? Okay. How much?
In I have so that's. Can you see me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, so that's a Seachem product. It's Flourish Excel. It doesn't say glutaraldehyde. I think. Yeah, it does say something. So it is saying 2.5% here, and it's saying use 5 ml for every 40 liter. So, but that's a low concentration. That's not enough to kill the algae or anything. So I use 10%. There's another guy here who actually, that's the product. So he call it dinosaur spit. It's a homemade one, but when I go there, he just get a big barrel and dilute to 10% and fill it in the bottle. Yeah, that's pretty concentrated. And if you to kill the blackbird algae, you can actually take them in a syringe like this, and just pull it out, maybe 2 or 3 ml, and then you can spot treat the algae. So wherever is algae, just point the tip of the tube to the algae and push all the chemical glutaraldehyde, just enough for the tank. But you instead of injecting this randomly, you can actually spot treat. It just adds the chemical to the tank as a whole, and also when you inject, it kills the algae sitting close to the tube. So that's one way to do it.
Yeah, thank you, Deepak. It's a new information for me. The blackbird algae is also menace for me. Okay, so I think the glutaraldehyde can kill both algae as well as it can flourish the plants. Okay.
You can kill fish in high doses. You can kill even human also. So
Okay.
depending on the dosage. So yeah,
the lab grade glutaraldehyde can be diluted up to 10%. I think.
Yeah, 10% is pretty concentrated. You just have to be careful. And if I open this, I can immediately get a smell like the formalin. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's both aldehyde. It get a similar, something similar to formalin. It's
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Strong,
you. Thank you.
yeah.
And one question from Tamanna. Why do aquarium plants keep dying?
That's a very broad question, but there are many things. The three things I said: the light, carbon dioxide, and nutrients. One or all of them is not working to the plant, so that's the reason. So I think first of all, if it's not a nutrient-rich substrate, there are only very few plants are easy growing. Other plants need the nutrients at least. If not I know lights will be there. Even if it is not up to the mark, there's some light is there. If you keep them only a few plants, probably the carbon dioxide inside the water is enough for them to grow. Then what is lacking is probably the nutrients. If it is a gravel substrate, it's probably not going to help the plants.
And one question from Tamanna. Why are aquarium plants turning brown?
Why are?
My aquarium plants turning brown.
Yeah, it could be it depends on whether the brown color is something sticking on the plant leaf, or the plants are dying. When they die, they turn yellow and brown. So that is called melting. That's the terminology used in this industry. If you get plants melting, yeah, it's it can be multiple issues. It could be any of this. There's no straight answer for it. You have to see whether light is enough, yeah, or the probably nutrients are not good, or if you have not planted them in the right way. If their roots are already damaged, no matter you have nutrient, carbon dioxide, or light, and it's very difficult them to come back. So you had to be very delicate with them, and you plant them. The roots are very sensitive. Roots are which actually make them grow better. So when you plant them, you should have very less damage to the roots. Some of them come with a little bit soil or sponge. Very sensitive plants, people don't even take out the sponge, or they put plant as such it is. So the association between root and soil is not disturbed. So I think that's something you should be careful when you do it.
And one question from Ashna Mohammed. Sir, how can we get rid of green thread-like algae?
Sorry, can you?
How can we get rid of green thread algae?
Green algae.
Thread-like algae.
Thread. Yeah, I think one of my slide. I have, I just can't. It's not on top of my head, but let me check this thread algae. So, yeah, it's one of the when you have high nitrates or probably high light. So first thing you have to test them and fix if they are in excess. You can do a water change, maybe at least a 50% water change. You can control your light. You can do a full blackout for a couple of days. So again, the algae is small, plants are bigger, so the first one dies is the algae. So some people effectively do a blackout, have giving no light, and when the algae is dead, they turn on the lights back again. But again, that's a temporary issue. You have to find the root cause why it is giving. Why the thread algae is coming. So it should be one of the nutrients high, and you have to control them in the right proportion. And there are few shrimps actually eat thread algae. So having some algae eating shrimps will actually help freshwater. Shrimps. In international market, they call shrimp. I know in India is prawns. It's a different confusing terminology.
And one doubt from Arun: terrarium is another planted aquarium. Terrarium is another planted aquarium. That's a difference between a terrarium and aquarium. This is what he means.
You want to know the difference between terrarium and what? Sorry.
Yeah, he want to differentiate between terrarium and aquarium.
Yeah, the planted aquarium is fully submerged in water. Terrarium is like you can have a little bit water, but even without water, you can keep a terrarium. But more, there are different species of plants you use, but mostly moisture liking plants. So basically, you can. I think best way is to do like keep a little of water, and there are we can mist them. There are sprayers or humidifiers. They make mist from the water, so that keeps the entire environment moist. Um, so I think that's a bit of different environment, a fully different ecosystem. There's no way you can compare a terrarium and planted aquarium. The main feature of planted aquarium is you have to give carbon dioxide. That makes a lot of difference in the whole appearance and the plant growth. When terrarium, they can absorb carbon dioxide from air, so because they are not submerged, so there's no issues with it. Yeah, so that's a main difference.
And Deepak, one more question from Arun. Do guppy fishes eat algae?
No, they don't. That's it. Yeah, when you have a terrarium with a little bit of water, they're usually called paludarium. I think terrarium is just mostly very dry. There's basically no water. Therefore lizards and stuff like that. Paludarium is the one which have a little bit of water, and basically if you have a full tank, 80% with air and maybe 20% water.
One question from Kavya. Why do we need to keep water plants inside aquarium? Why do we need to keep water plants inside aquarium?
Water plant. Why do we keep water plants inside aquarium? You don't have to keep, really. If you wish to keep, this is the way how to keep that sense. But keeping aquatic plants, it makes it not artificial. It's more close to the nature. That's how nature works. There's a full ecosystem there, which now the output from fish is used as like it's an input for plants. So it's a cycle. So it's just a more natural. So yeah, but you don't have to. It's perfectly okay to keep a completely artificial aquarium. If that is what makes you happy.
Yeah, one doubt from Sina's question. Do algae cause harm to fishes? Do algae harm to fishes?
Most algae don't make issues, but the one which we encounter in planted aquariums nearly won't affect the fishes. It's a visual appearance, and it's destroying basically the water chemistry, the balance inside the aquarium. What could happen is, like, if it is in like so much excess, the algae sorts of plants will be probably consuming more oxygen from the water than the plants. It could affect the fishes. Probably in the night also, there'll be more carbon dioxide. So it's only when they are like so much in excess. But otherwise, the algae, yeah, the fishes are more hardy. They can stand all these things.
Okay, thank you, Deepak. I think question from chat box is over.
Yeah. There are some. Sorry. Yeah, there's some equipments here if you want to see. That's a sand flattener tool I was talking about. That's tweezer, like forceps, and that's a forceps with a bend. So you can use this to plant. You can see the plants where they are going. That's a timer. It's a timer. You can plug the CO2 regulator or the lights, and it fully, you can manually switch on which time you want to turn on, turn off. That's a small filter. You go inside. It's mainly used for water circulation. Doesn't help much with the nitrogen cycle. That's a diffuser, carbon dioxide diffuser. Line from the cylinder comes in here, and that's breaks the carbon dioxide into fine bubbles. This is another diffuser. Just it has a very small porous ceramic plate in here, and that's where the tube goes. That's something you will use to a digital meter for recording temperature and pH. That's a ADA fertilizer. It's a potassium fertilizer. It's a expensive one. Yeah, this one is a glue used to glue the rocks, or you can even glue the mosses to the rocks. That's a sponge filter. So if you're running too many tanks, and it's cannot afford canisters, but you can just run on a sponge filter like this. That's the regulator for carbon dioxide. Yeah, so that's the pressure showing from the cylinder. That's going to the pressure in the tube. The bubble counter comes in here, and that's the valve, fine-tuning valve to adjust how many bubbles you want to go inside the tube. And this black thing is the solenoid. So and you plug this into a timer. So when the timer stops the power, this will shut the valve. And when it turns on, it will open the valve. That's the function of solenoid. Yeah, that's mostly everything. And maybe this one is a bit heavy. It's a big canister, this one. It's a big unit. And that's a canister with a UV tube inside. So that's a UV tube. So, and that is where the water goes in and out. So usually the water comes in through and exposed to UV light. And inside the canister, there'll be a lot of baskets like this. And in each basket, there'll be different media. And the water goes out through the pump here. So that is how a canister works. Yeah, so I think I showed all the equipments here.
Man, you are a well-equipped man.
And there is heaps of nutrient testing thing. That's the API is a big popular brand. So they have different testing kits. That's a carbonate hardness testing kit, and they all look like that's both general hardness and carbon hardness as a pH, and ammonia. So there's nitrate, phosphate. There are so many testing kits. They last pretty long. So I bought this like 4 years back. So I'm still using it. It's no issues. So yeah, that's it.
Regularly use all these weapons.
Use
all these weapons for
it just accumulated over years, not bought in once. It's just kept buying when some issues come or when I want to try something else. So I just was sitting around. That's a ADA brand root fertilizer. So they produce. If you think your nutrient is less, so these fertilizers come in like a pellet, and you can just insert this root. They're called root tabs. You can insert near the root of the plants, and that will. It's a slow release, so it won't dissolve immediately. It stays for a long, leaching nutrients in a slow manner. But there are other brands as well. This is ADA. Yep. Happy?
Yeah. Sorry, sir. Are we there? Shall we move?
Okay, okay, Jisha teacher, shall we conclude? Okay, my official duty is to propose vote of thanks. So, with gratitude, I am placing heartfelt thanks to our respected principal, Dr. R. Sunil Kumar, who is the motivation behind this webinar series. I propose vote of thanks to Dr. M.J. Manoj, IQAC Coordinator, SN College Kollam, for his welcome address, and Dr. S.P. Manoj, IQAC Coordinator, for facilitating this webinar. Dr. Deepak has made an elaborate, fantastic talk, which covered A to Z in setting up of maintaining a very beautiful planted aquarium. We handled the question and session in a very effective way. On behalf of IQAC and Health Club of SN College Kollam, and my personal behalf, I propose vote of thanks to Dr. Deepak. We will be in touch with Deepak future programs, especially certificate program designed by Department of Zoology in aquarium fabrication and setting, for your expert opinion and advices and motivation. Thank you very much, Deepak. I thank Soumya, Assistant Professor, Department of Philosophy, for her assistance in collecting feedback and provision of e-certificate for the webinar series. I heartily thank Dr. S. Jisha, Assistant Professor, Department of Zoology, and convener of this webinar, for her wholehearted effort in conducting these webinars. Thank you, Jisha. Thank all the members, executive members of Health Club, and all the teaching staff from SN College Kollam, teachers and academicians from various colleges and universities, like Shibuvarthan, Nina teacher, Babita, Jasmine, Nisha, Seema Jodi, Rashmi Vijayan, Shashikan, Anila George, Archana, Ravanish, Vincent Vijayan. Thank you all for your kind participation. I thank all the UG, PG, and PhD students for their active participation. I would like to wish you a prosperous, happy Onam in this COVID-19 period. Stay safe, stay healthy. Happy Onam to one and all. Thank you once again, Deepak, for an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Onam.
Same to you.